Okay, that should be working now. I just recorded a whole video and the camera didn't even get any of it. And I'm just going to check something. Give me a moment. Okay. Right, that's working. Okay. Right. I am now 8 years on Estrogen HRT today, which is great. I have lived in this place over 2 years. And it's better than my old place, though I could really do some more showering. My transition hasn't progressed super far. I am looking to begin, well, at least start laser hair in a couple of weeks, which hopefully, he's hoping it goes well, because no, this is just infuriating. And I'm really hoping I get my HRT renewed because I'm running low. They're having trouble getting stock in, which is not good. I do not want it. I refuse to detransition. I love being in transition. I love being a woman. I deeply love being the woman I am. And I refuse to go back to being that miserable wreck that I was forced to be before. So here's hoping I can get my HRT renewed. In terms of things that have happened, a few months ago a local trans man mistreated me. He caused an empathic overload, which was extremely painful. I managed to purge what he slammed into me, and I severed the connection that he made. Since he got a strong empathy as well, the only thing is he misuses it. I don't think he's aware of just how strong it is. But he's quite abusive, unfortunately. I had tried to make a friendship because I'm extremely lonely and isolated. He doesn't want a lowly female like me. He has a bitterness towards femininity and disdain of trans women. And he's in complete self-denial. He also gaslit me 3 times. He accused me of hurting him with talking about my past. Because now I am taking the steps to healing. But I have to talk about it in order to, as part of that healing process. Because my past has nothing to do with him. Just as his problems and issues have nothing to do with me. And I don't appreciate him taking it out on me. He also accused me of not being social. Now, I am social, but I lack social skills. I am not what you call a social butterfly. I try, but I'm really not very good at socialization. I do try, constantly. With being introverted, however, my social battery drains quite fast, even online. So I do struggle, but I'm always doing my very best to be as social as humanly possible. And he accused me of hating men, because I don't relate to men, because I'm not male. I don't identify as male. I've never been a man. I have no idea how to be a man. It's the idea that I hate men because I don't relate to them is frankly preposterous. It's ridiculous. I don't hate men. I simply do not identify as male. I have no desire to be male because I am not male. I am female. I am a woman. I am a girl. I always have been. The only person I know how to be is myself, and that is a woman. Now, being mistreated like that really hurt, and I have to heal from that, on top of healing from my past. I had to go to hospital a few weeks ago for what was suspected to be a stroke. Thankfully it wasn't a stroke, but it does look to have been stress related due to the excessive stress I'm always under, and what he did added to that stress. It really hurts. Now I have to learn how to relax and slow down. That's really hard for me. I have no idea how to do that. And I suspect I may have ADHD, which would explain a lot of how I am. So, I'm not sure if I'm either autistic or if I have ADHD or like a combination, or like a mesh, like a combination of the two, or if I have one of the two. I don't know. But it would make a lot of sense. It would explain a lot. Especially as I'm trying to keep my mind from wandering because I'm having a lot of trouble concentrating. So, what else? I'm strongly hoping I can get surgery. I'm trying to get this weight down. I'm pushing myself as hard as humanly possible. And it doesn't even matter what I do, the weight won't go down, and it's infuriating me. There has to be a way to get this weight to go down. It's looking to be like a biological cause is preventing the weight from going down. Likely my metabolism has slowed down considerably with being in my 40s. So, joy. I'm constantly doing my best. Well, today's my rest day. I have to have rest days to let my muscles repair. I have a habit of pushing myself too hard, which isn't doing me any wonders. I keep getting injuries in my legs. Let's see, what else? The recent claim to ban conversion therapy and excluding trans people from it is vile. Conversion therapy is extremely abusive. I suffered through social conversion therapy, which saw me basically forced to be a heterosexual cisgender male, which I'm not male. It was abusive, it was cruel, and it saw me suppressed for so long and having to suffer severe testosterone poisoning. Had I better transition sooner, I would have better to avoid that. But because of the excessive transphobia in this country for years, and Section 28, then that made it impossible. So I will never forgive transphobes. I have a deep hatred to transphobes. And I will not forgive those who voted for the likes of Section 28 and the harm it caused and still causes to this day, years after it's been repealed. The shadow of Section 28 is quite big. There's also been the constant attacks on trans youth and on trans people, basically trans women in sports. In particular, the continuous transphobia is cruelty. Pure cruelty. It's oppressive and it harms cis people as well. Especially harms cis women. It sets up these unrealistic expectations of how a woman should look and be. But no one woman is exactly the same. Every single woman on the face of this planet is different from one another. And they all have different life experiences. All this transphobia is basically being enforced by middle-class, heterosexual, cisgender white women who are desperate to actually be oppressed because their lives are so meaningless and hollow. They are so pathetic. They're so desperate to have these oppression Olympics. They constantly keep saying, oh, being a woman is horrible. Yeah, being a woman's hard. But there are joys to being a woman as well. There are really good things about being a woman. This whole backwards notion that transphobes have of making a woman out to seem all weak and helpless is so pathetic. Women can be extremely strong. Generally they have to be to try and survive in a world that's been screwed over by centuries of oppressive attitudes. And the constant attacks on trans kids is sickening. I was a trans child. I remember what it was like being oppressed like that. Trans children deserve all the support, love and care that they require in order to be themselves as they grow into themselves. Trans children do not get hormones. They make it puberty blockers once puberty begins to kick in. But those are fully reversible with no negative side effects. And essentially, they are used for cisgender children for early puberty. to buy time. For trans children, it's much the same way, just to buy time. Trans children are not able to begin HRT until they're at least 16 years old. You know, it's a bit cruel, but that's current policy. And they can't get surgery until they're at least 18. Well, trans children know themselves just fine. I did. I knew I was a girl from the second my self-awareness kicked in when I was about 3 years old. I knew. Trans children know themselves perfectly well. And constantly attacking trans women claiming they have some physical advantage. They don't. Estrogen HRT strips away muscle development, stamina and endurance extremely quickly. It also causes gradual height reduction. I've shrunk. I am about 5'5"-ish now. I was maybe about 5'7", maybe 5'8" before. I've shrunk. And it's great. I hope to keep shrinking a little bit more. I hope I can end up getting to 5'3", because that's the height I'm supposed to be. And I think I may have actually shrunk a tiny bit more since that last measurement in December. Great. Estrogen HRT strips trans women of a lot. And yeah, you can train hard, you can work hard. But it's very hard to regain what you've lost. Some will, but it also comes down to genetics. And here's the thing. The continuous attacks on trans women in sports, it's the same attacks that were done against black men in sports. To deny them to take part because there are black men who have a naturally genetic advantage. Just as there are black women who will have a naturally genetic advantage. Basically, there are plenty of cisgender people who have a natural advantage. Like some cis women will have a naturally higher level of testosterone. This will give them a higher competitive edge. Now, these attacks on trans women claiming they have a genetic advantage or a natural advantage, they don't. They do not have that advantage because they lose it rapidly. Estrogen HRT strips the muscle strength, stamina and endurance down to an mental level of an average cisgender woman or just below average. This is just the way estrogen HRT works. Now, the claim that cisgender men would pretend to be trans female in order to gain some advantage is utter nonsense. There are laws in place which regular blood tests to check hormone levels to ensure that trans women's hormone levels are on par with cis women's. To make sure that testosterone levels are extremely low. Now, my testosterone level, from what I was told, is at 0.9. That is very low. Whereas my estrogen was noted at 88. And it's supposed to be higher, I think because the estrogen gel I've been using got scraped off due to my clothes. So I'm having to find ways of applying that without getting scraped off. Now, this claim that trans women have an advantage is utter nonsense. Science has even proven that trans women do not have an advantage. Sure, some trans women might still retain a little bit more strength. But, only maybe one or two might, out of maybe hundreds. Others will just lose a lot. That is the way estrogen is. Trans men, on the other hand, they will gain an advantage over time. They will get stronger. Their muscle development will increase. And with training, they could be as strong as practically almost any cis man. So these constant attacks are basically recycled homophobia and racism. It's the same old song and dance every single time from these bigots. Because they are terrified of being outdone by those they deem as inferior to themselves. And a lot of this hatred comes from the particular insecure heterosexual cisgender white men who are terrified of being outdone, of being seen as less, of being seen as inferior. It's backwards attitudes. Whereas cis women who are enforcing transphobia seem to be determined to be oppressed. Basically, they're making their own oppression and making it out to seem like being a woman is the worst thing ever, when it isn't. Being a woman's great. It's not easy. It's hard. But there are really good things about being a woman. There are joys about it. I love being a woman. I embrace my femininity with pure pride, despite how hard things are. I'm not ashamed of being a woman. Why would I be? No woman should be ashamed of being a woman. No matter what happens in your life, do try to hold on to the joys there are of being a woman. There are joys. I mean, it'd be easy, especially considering the way society is all so screwed up from centuries of vile, backwards oppressions. Being a woman's fun. I love it anyway. Well, I think I'm going to call this. So, as 8 years in HRT, here's hoping I progress a little further. I hope I get surgery. And yeah, and I hope I heal from what happened with the local trans man. It is disappointing. There are so few local trans people for me to talk to. I am very lonely and I am extremely isolated. But sadly, I just think I get mistreated. Again. So, this is Lena Watts signing off. And here's hoping for further progress. I hope. So, all done.